Okay, so CBS defends diversity hiring on SEAL team from anti-white discrimination suit. For those who've been following my channel for a while, I've been following this case, or I should say case, because seriously, anti-white discrimination, well, this article compares what's happening at CBS with what's happening at Disney. So that's the main reason why I want to bring this article up. For those who seem to think that, who might think that one is frivolous and the other one actually makes nominal sense. So let's just get right to the article. CBS filed a motion Thursday to throw out a lawsuit challenging its diversity hiring practices for writers on the show SEAL Team, arguing that it has a First Amendment right to hire who it wants. Which, yes, as long as you're not discriminating against a protected class for no reason besides their protected class, then absolutely they have a First Amendment right to hire who they want. Brian Beneker, the longtime script coordinator on the show, sued in February, arguing that he had been repeatedly passed over for writing jobs because he's a straight white man. Yes, he's a straight white man, not that he doesn't have the qualifications. And I have mentioned in previous articles that people have mentioned he didn't have the qualifications and his stuff isn't that good. So basically, instead of it being an anti-white discrimination thing, it's more of a, I'm straight and white, so I should be able to run the world. Beneker has the backing of America First Legal, which is run by Stephen Miller, of course it is, an advisor to former President Trump. Yes, this is the absolute genius who thought that cruelty to immigrants at the border is a good thing. So yeah, this is not a good person. Regardless of what you think about the immigrants coming over from the southern border, cruelty, no, let's not be cruel to them. All right, where was I? The organization has sought to challenge diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which it terms anti-white discrimination in the entertainment industry and elsewhere in corporate America. Right, because white people should be able to walk all over anybody they don't like, and it's their God-given right to do so, I guess. Seriously, just because you have to suddenly work hard to get ahead isn't anti-white discrimination. It just means that you have to compete against other people instead of thinking that you're privileged because of the color of your skin. I mean, come on. What the hell? In its motion, CBS argued that it has a constitutional right to decide who will speak on its behalf, which supersedes anti-discrimination law. Exactly. I mean, obviously, if you want to do a show about the SEALs, you might want to have someone writing who understands what it's like to be on the SEALs, or at least be in the military. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that this man is straight or white. It just means that he doesn't have what it takes to write for a show like this. I'm sure he could write for other shows. I'm sure that he has experiences that he could lend to other shows. It's just not this one. CBS's alleged decision to prioritize diversity in its writers' room is protected by the First Amendment because, as Beneker's complaint recognizes, who writes for a creative production like SEAL Team affects the stories that SEAL Team tells, wrote Molly Lenz, a partner at O'Melveny and Myers. So limiting CBS's ability to select the writers of its choice, as Beneker seeks to do here, unconstitutionally impairs CBS's ability to shape its message. So Beneker admits that the people who were hired because they actually know the material that needs to go into this show. So he admitted that, but yet he still thinks that it's discriminatory. Here's an idea. Join the SEALs. Then you will have the experience you need to write for the show. I mean, seriously. Why do you want to insist on writing for a show you know nothing about? Write for a show that speaks to your experiences. I'm sure you have them. I don't know what show, I don't know what your experiences are. So I can't say what show you would be more suited for. But write for them. Why are you insisting on writing for a show that you yourself admitted you do not have what it takes to write for? You're just screaming, I'm white, so I should get to do what I want. In a similar case, Disney argued last month that it had a First Amendment right to fire Mandalorian actor Gina Carano after she made a post on social media that allegedly trivialized the Holocaust. Allegedly. We have eyes. We saw her do it. I mean, it's not allegedly anymore. We read the social media post. Yeah. Disney and CBS each cite the same cases. Boy Scouts of America versus Dale and Hurley versus Irish American Gay, Lesbian, and Bisexual Group of Boston, among others, for the proposition that the government cannot force a private entity to hire someone to express views it disagrees with. Which, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this, in the Boy Scouts case, at least that was someone who was in a protected class. I mean, and it was discovered that no, the Boy Scouts, because they are a private organization, and now the Boy Scouts, I thought, take some government money. So that's a trickier proposition. I could be wrong. But if they don't take government money, yeah, they don't have to hire someone who goes against their mission. I mean, let's face it, the Boy Scouts are, at their core, a religious organization. Or at least they still have strong religious ties. And if those religious ties tell them, we don't want a certain message to be shared, then, yeah, they have a right to do that. So, yeah, same thing here. In the case of Beneker, he doesn't have the experience to properly write the characters on SEAL Team. In the case of Gina Carano, she was making Disney look bad by going completely cuckoo bananas. on social media. Now, you can argue what led to that, Twitter sucks and that they, didn't exactly treat her well. But at the end of the day, her views are her views. I mean, she didn't just decide that she was going to go cuckoo bananas because, she had conservative views to begin with. So, yeah. In one case, it's an actor totally going off the rails, and in another, it's someone who thinks that, just because even though they don't have the experience necessary, that they should get a job. Literally, nobody gets that. And I really wonder what his background's like, if he's rich or, because some people truly think that they should have everything handed to them just for breathing, just for existing. So, who knows? Anyway. Lenz is also among the attorneys representing Disney in the Carano case. Oh, that's why there was that tie-in. Okay. In both cases, the defense cited a race discrimination lawsuit filed against ABC in 2011 over its failure to cast a black man in The Bachelor. The judge threw out that case, citing the producers' First Amendment right to make their own casting decisions. Now, that one I question, because yes, they can make their own casting decisions. Absolutely, they can. However, nobody says the Bachelor has to be white. Now, granted, why would a minority want to be in an environment where they aren't going to feel comfortable? Because obviously he's not wanted. But yeah, that one actually is a trickier one, just on its face. But yes, in the end, they do have the right to make their own casting decisions. And if they decide that they do not want to cast a minority person, I don't know. To me, that is a classic case of discrimination. Because I know that this is something that Bachelor Nation has been having a problem with. That The Bachelor leans into this traditional marriage scenario, minus the fact that, everyone's bed hopping. But in the sense that they want their characters to fall in love, get married, and that it's only white people generally. So, I don't know. That one, I just, I mean, yeah, that one, on the one hand, yes, they should be able to make their own casting decisions. But unlike these two cases, these two cases have extenuating circumstances related to the firings. Whereas the Bachelor one is just up and up racism. I mean, dude, you're casting a person in the role of the Bachelor. It's not, there's nothing that says that the Bachelor has to be white. So, anyway. In 2020, CBS set a goal of having Black, Indigenous, and people of color representation reached 40% in its writers' rooms in 2021 to 2022 and 50% from 2022 to 2023. And that is going to be BIPOC. So I'm going to go with BIPOC. A report by the Writers Guild of America West found that BIPOC writers made up 37% of overall TV series staffing in 2020, up from 13.6% a decade earlier. Beneker's lawsuit alleged that CBS's goal amounted to an illegal hiring quota. That's a toughie. I mean, I do agree that, to push, I guess it depends on how you do it. I mean, if you're hiring people just to fill the slot, that's one thing. But if you're hiring them because they legit have a voice you want to hear, I can see where he would say it's a quota. I actually can see that. The suit alleged that white heterosexual men needed extra qualifications to be hired as staff writers. See, that's the part I'm not sure about. Such as military experience, which again, you're working on a military show. Why are you surprised you need military experience? Or previous writing credits compared to non-white female or LGBTQ writers who did not need such qualifications. Now that's where I disagree. Now, if that was truly happening, he would have a leg to stand on. But based on what other writers who know him have said, that is not what's happening. And this is just another example of, in this case, white men whining because they got beat out for a job. And so they assume, because DEI initiatives are in place, that means that they are some pity hire and that they don't actually have the qualifications that is being asked of him. So in this case, I do agree with Charlemagne the God, which, I can't stand the man. In that this is just another excuse for racist white people to point and say, I'm being discriminated against because of, these quotas, that you're just hiring people because of these initiatives and not because they deserve the job. So I can see why some people would think that, but how do you know they don't have these qualifications is what I'd like to know. I mean, if you're in the writer's room, if you have written a little bit, I mean, he's on the staff of SEAL Team, so he sees what work they put out. So how can you legit say that they don't have these qualifications, that they're just some pity hire? So yeah, I mean, on the surface I can see where he's coming from if this were true, but I'm going to say it's not true, because SEAL Team is a popular show, and from what I hear, it's fairly accurate. So yeah, what? The suit alleged that the hiring policy violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Oh, we like that now, huh? Okay. The suit seeks an order barring CBS from implementing the policy and requiring the show to hire Beneker as a producer. Okay. So, this is where he completely loses me. I mean, he lost me from the very beginning, but First off, you don't get to invoke the Civil Rights Act when it suits you. This is not a violation of the Civil Rights Act. If you had any knowledge of the Civil Rights Act, you would know that. But, like everything else the far right does, they have no knowledge of anything except their own hate. And hiring Benecker as a producer, my man, my dude. First, you were bent out of shape because you didn't get writing jobs. So now you think that you should be a producer on the show that you didn't have the experience and qualifications to write for. How on earth do you decide that? How did you come to that conclusion? It's obvious that this guy is just making a power play. He just wants to be looked at as important, and I don't know, he sees himself as worthless, and this is to boost his ego because, oh my God, people of color are doing better than me, and that's just not right. Seriously, what is going through that head of his, if anything, besides hate? CBS does not claim that the First Amendment makes it immune from anti-discrimination laws, but it does contend that the First Amendment prevails when hiring for positions like writers or actors that involved expressive conduct. The First Amendment's rule of speakers' autonomy gives CBS, and CBS alone, the right to decide what stories to tell in its television programming, Lenz wrote, and it has the corresponding right to select which writers are best suited to tell those stories. And, yeah, I mean, if you had a idea for a show that, again, you were more qualified to work on, I'm sure CBS would listen. I mean, they might not necessarily want the show. It depends on what your idea is. But nobody's stopping you from doing that. The fact that you're whining that you somehow need to have qualifications like military experience on a military show and insist that you are the only one who needs that because you happen to be white, and the fact that he insists on straight as if that has any bearing on the show, because I hate to break it to you, my dude, gay people and other members of the LGBTQ community have served in the military. And of course, if you're going to have a character from the community, you might want to have a writer who knows what it's like to be that type of character. Because otherwise you're going to have some horrible, horrible ass stereotype. And we don't want that. So, same thing with how the SEALs do their job. You don't want some stereotype of what somebody thinks the SEAL team does and how they go about their day-to-day. So it makes sense you would have someone who's familiar with that environment. I don't see, and I just don't get where he gets the idea that none of the other hires who are minorities don't have that qualifications. I mean, a part of me understands because of the set goal of increasing diversity in the writers' room. I can see where he gets that. But unless he can prove that these other people don't have the qualifications that are being forced upon him, unless he can prove that, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. And same thing with Gina Carano. I mean, We've seen her tweets. Disney can decide that they do not want to have that toxic environment. And I've mentioned it in my videos dealing with Gina Carano, that I'm still convinced that even if Pedro Pascal hasn't personally said anything to the powers that be don't feel comfortable with having someone like Gina Carano near Pedro Pascal, even though he mostly voices the character and he's usually not in her proximity. But I'm pretty sure they're like, yeah, let's get rid of her. We don't want Pedro to feel like he has to deal with her. But anyway, getting a little off subject, slightly. Anyway, that is the end of that article, and with that, I will see you guys in the next video.